2001, something truly world-changing happened. Nintendo released the true successor to the Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance. With it, we saw a massive leap in portable gaming as the GBA was a 32-bit system as opposed to the 8-bit original. Naturally, it was only a matter of time before Pokémon made the jump to this new system. The development of Pokémon's third generation was pretty rough from developer accounts. A lot of the staff were fatigued from the series by this point. Ken Sugimori, he started to make the designs feel less like how they did in the first two games, and Junichi Masuda was worried that blockbuster franchises such as the then recently releasing Star Wars prequel trilogy and Peter Jackson's adaptation of Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings would ultimately drive kids away from the Pokémon series and ultimately doom it. Well, whether the team was ready or not, Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire would launch on the GBA and would start what is now referred to as Generation 3. Despite positive reception from fans and critics, however, Ruby and Sapphire would sell less than Gold and Silver, which themselves sold less than Red and Blue, although they were still considered financial successes nevertheless. Over the next few years, more mainline games would come out under Generation 3, including remakes of Red and Blue, two GameCube titles, and most importantly for this video, Pokémon Emerald, which in addition to its own changes made to Ruby and Sapphire, would also carry over improvements made in those Gen 1 remakes. Now, for the sake of this video, we will be strictly focusing on Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, primarily Emerald, although don't worry, we will cover the other Generation 3 games later on in their own separate videos. Even with this video just focusing on the first set of Generation 3 games, we still got a lot to cover. I mean, look at that time bar. So let's not waste any more time and tackle Pokemon's third generation. We begin by being welcomed into the world of Pokemon by a new face, Professor Birch. He gives us the usual spiel like Oak did in the previous games and asks us for our name and gender, and I have to be honest up front, I really don't like Brendan's design that much. It's the hat. When shrunken down to the overworld sprite, it looks like his hair is already graying or white. I don't know, it never looked good to me. I like May's design though, it's definitely a lot more appealing, and what's cool is that both of them ended up getting their designs updated for Emerald version. After all is said and done, we awake in the back of a moving truck with a bunch of boxes around us, real safe, and we arrive in our new home of Little Root Town in the Hoenn region, an island nation disconnected from Kanto and Johto. Our mom then greets us and tells us to go set our clock in our room. Unlike Gen 2, Hoenn doesn't have a day and night cycle, but it does make use of time-based events, although no worries if the battery in the cartridge dies, as it's only used for the real-time clock. Gen 3 saves via flash storage, so your saves will last for as long as the cartridge itself does. When we come back downstairs, our mom calls us over to the TV where we see our dad at the Petalburg City Gym. Yeah, unlike past protagonists in the series, this one isn't fatherless. After the news broadcast, Mom tells us to go find Professor Birch, who lives next door, to introduce ourselves. However, Birch isn't home, but his kid is, and will always be either Brendan or May, whichever one you ended up not choosing, and they will be our rival for this game. Although for some reason, we don't get to name the rival this go around. I assume because Game Freak caught on to the fact that people were naming the rival Ass Munch or Jockoch. Brendan introduces himself before remembering that he was supposed to help his dad catch some Pokemon, so he heads over to his computer and just stays there, infinitely checking that his Pokemon are healed, that he has all of his items. Fucking idiot. When we head north, we hear someone cry out for help, that coming from Professor Birch, who is being chased by a wild Pokemon. He tells us to grab one of the Pokeballs from his bag to help him. We now get to choose our starter Pokemon for the adventure, the Grass-type Trico, the Fire-type Torchic, and the Water-type Mudkip. Now, if you ask me, I don't think you can go wrong with any three of these guys. They're all fantastic for taking on the challenges Hoenn will throw at you. Although it should be noted that for some reason, Trico never gains a second type unlike the other two. Torchic, when fully evolved into a Blaziken, gains the fighting type, and Mudkip, after becoming a Swampert, gains the ground type. No matter what though, pick whichever starter you want to use for this journey and have it take down that wild Pokemon assaulting the professor. Professor Birch takes us back to his lab where he thanks us for saving him and as a reward lets us keep the Pokemon we used to help him. We can now nickname this Pokemon, so everyone welcome Kippy the Mudkip! From here, we can progress through the very short Route 101 and arrive at Oldale Town where we find our first Pokemon Center and Pokemart. The Pokemon Centers now have a second floor, which is where you access the multiplayer features such as trading and battling, and some new additions like mixing records with other players. Something neat that can only be done in Emerald is wireless communication. This was first introduced in Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Gen 1 remakes, and was carried over to Emerald, so instead of being tethered to another player via a link cable, you just put in 2 little adapters into your Game Boys and you can be a little farther apart than normal. Although, it should be noted that if you're playing with someone who's using Ruby or Sapphire, you still gotta use that link cable, unfortunately. If we head north of Oldale, we can find Brendan on Route 103, where he challenges us to our first trainer battle. We now have proper battle backgrounds thanks to the GBA, and as if that wasn't the only improvement made to these, the battle system itself must have taken a great hit of something illegal, because this shit is lightning fast now compared to past games. Anyways, Brendan will always have the starter that is strong against yours, but because you had the opportunity to fight wild Pokemon leading up to this, you can just completely flatten him. We then head back to the lab again, where Birch congratulates us on beating up his son by giving us the Pokédex to record the data of Pokemon native to Hoenn. Brendan even gives us some Pokeballs to get us started. Now, there are a lot of new Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. 135 brand new Pokemon on top of the returning 251 for a total of 386. That's not even mentioning that unlike Generation 2, where a good chunk of the Pokemon were pre-evolutions or new evolutions for pre-existing Pokemon, Gen 3 only has 2 Pokemon that are pre-existing evolutions for previously introduced Mons. Other than that, almost all of Generation 3's Pokemon are completely brand new. Now, let's talk about something not as fun, that being completing the Pokédex. So, in Gen 1, you just needed Red and Blue. Gen 2 required Gold and Silver, as well as trading with the Generation 1 games. Gen 3? It's a lot more complicated. Due to time constraints, Game Freak didn't implement the means to migrate Pokemon from Gold and Silver and Crystal to Gen 3, meaning that for the first and, as of now, only time in the series, we have a hard cutoff for Pokemon. What's worse is that you can only catch roughly 240 Pokemon with Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald alone, meaning that it is impossible to complete the Pokédex with just the Hoenn game. So how exactly do you go about doing that? Well, that's where the other Generation 3 games come in. Fire Red and Leaf Green allows you to catch the missing Kanto Pokemon as well as a lot of Johto Pokemon, and if you don't have access to certain events, then you also gotta play through Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness on GameCube to get the remaining few. This means spending way too much money on 2 GBAs, a GameCube, the link cables for all of those systems, 5 GBA games, and 2 GameCube games. And may I mind you, these games are not cheap nowadays. Completing the Pokédex in Gen 3 is often regarded as one of the most difficult dexes to complete, and it's all because you can't connect with Gen 1 or 2. And I'm not saying this from observation from, watching others do it on the internet. I've completed the Pokédex on my physical copy of Emerald. I've earned the right to bitch about how fucked up of a process this is. Okay, coming back down to earth, back to the game. Mom stops us before leaving Little Root Town as she gives us the running shoes. By holding down the B button, we can run, and by God, this feels so much faster after playing Gen 1 and 2 back to back. And it's a good thing that we can run now because Hoenn is a much larger region than Kanto and Johto. Now we can progress west of Oldale, where we can find some new Pokemon and even encounter some regular trainers to battle before we reach Petalburg City. Now, naturally, we go and see the living anomaly that is our father in a Pokemon game, who is excited to see that we have a Pokemon of our own when this meek kid comes in and asks our dad for a Pokemon of his own. This is Wally, a character that we really don't get to see a whole lot of, but our dad tasks us with helping Wally catch his first Pokemon, which he does when he finds a Ralts in the nearby route and catches it. He thanks us before heading home as our dad, Norman, suggests that we should take on the gym in Rustboro City if we want to become a strong trainer. Before heading west of Petalburg, I decided I also wanted a Ralts, so after a bunch of running around, I finally encountered one, caught it, and named her Small because she a small girl. Route 104 connects Petalburg to Rustboro City, but the route is split into 2 halves thanks to Petalburg Woods, a forest containing tons of bug Pokemon. Partway through is this man looking for a Pokemon called Shroomish, who is then ambushed by this strange individual demanding he hand over research papers. The thug identifies himself as a member of Team Aqua, who then fights us and, rather naturally, gets his shit pushed in. The researcher man thanks us with a Great Ball before rushing back to Rustboro City. I then turn around and use that Great Ball to catch a Shroomish of my own, and since he is a mushroom, I decided to give him the loving nickname of Kushmiser. I'm Mr. Green Christmas. I'm high on weed. Now on the northern part of Route 104, we can encounter a new addition to the Pokemon series, Double Battles. You and your opponent will send out 2 Pokemon onto the battlefield, and this isn't just some neat battle gimmick. Double Battles require a bit more thought, as some moves like Surf will hit both opponents, while Earthquake will hit everything including your Pokemon. That's not even mentioning that Double Battles are to this day the standard format in the official Pokemon video game championship tournaments. You might have also spotted several berry trees across the Hoenn region. Berries returned from Gen 2, but there are now a large variety of them with a whole new slew of effects like healing items or even dampening the power of certain type moves for one turn. You can even grow more of them as you need to, which is especially useful for something much later on in the game. Finally, we reach Rustboro City, home of the first gym leader. After a quick training session on the nearby routes, we can enter and take on Roxanne, a scholar of rock-type Pokemon, which Kippy and Kushmiser make fast work of since, grass and water make, rocks cry. As the first major boss fight of the game, she isn't too hard, even with Torchic since, it does get fighting-type moves as it levels up. For crushing her team, we get the Stone Badge and TM39 Rock Tomb. Kippy even evolves into a Marsh Stomp. As we exit the gym, we see that Team Aqua Grunt from earlier running past us with that researcher chasing after him. He informs us that the Grunt made off with the Devon goods and asks us to retrieve them. After chasing him down to the Rust Turf Tunnel, where an old man outside informs us that his Pokemon was taken by the Grunt, we now have the obligation to crush that Aqua Grunt stolen for stealing from the elderly. After his Pokemon's untimely demise, we get the goods back and this old man is reunited with his Wingull named Pico. The old man introduces himself as Mr. Briny and says that if we need help from him, we can visit his house on Route 104. The researcher thanks us and takes us to see the president of the Devon Corporation, who similarly thanks us and asks us 2 things. One is to deliver the Devon goods to the shipyard in Slateport City, but the other is to hand a letter to a man named Steven in Dewford. As thanks for our troubles, he gives us a Pokénav, which is this game's Pokégear. We can get called by people and call them for rematches later on, as well as check the Hoenn map. As we leave Rustboro, we can find Brendan, who asks us if we want to battle him, and you can just straight up tell him to fuck off. This fight is completely optional. We can then make our way to Mr. Briny's house, where he offers to take us to Dewford Town by his boat. While we're here, let's go over some of the new mechanics introduced in Generation 3 while we enjoy the fresh sea breeze. You might have noticed that some Pokemon will cause the opponent to have their attack lowered by 1 stage when sent out into battle, or how Shroomish can inflict status effects when hit with a physical move. These are abilities, and every Pokemon has one. Some abilities are whatever and frankly aren't really that valuable, but there are some that are flat out game changers for several Pokemon. Multiple Psychic types have the Synchronize ability, which will cause the opponent to be inflicted with the status condition that the Pokemon with the ability was afflicted with. How about Pressure, which causes the opponent to use double the PP when attacking? There are so many abilities that I could not possibly hope to cover all of them. I haven't even mentioned that several abilities have out-of-battle effects, like Magma Armor and Flame Body, which increase the speed at which eggs hatch. What about Magnet Pull, which increases the odds of encountering Steel-type Pokemon in the wild? Alright, it looks like that little chat of ours saw us to Dewford Town. It's a tiny little place, but not far from it is Granite Cave, which we can't really see in. This hiker gives us the HM for Flash, but we can't use it unless we have the badge from this town's gym. Dewford is home to the Fighting-type gym, operated by the Big Fighting Wave, Brawly. This place can be a little troublesome if you aren't prepared, but fortunately Small has gotten powerful enough to more than pull her weight and even evolved into a Curlia at the end of the match. For knocking Brawly off his feet, we are awarded the Knuckle Badge and TM08 Bulk Up. With the badge in hand, we can use Flash to see in Granite Cave and make our way through to find Steven, who is somewhat of a rock maniac. Wait, Steven. Rocks. Gems. Oh! We hand him the letter from the Devon Corporation president as he thanks us by giving us TM47 Steel Wing. Steven seems to take somewhat of a liking to us and even suggests that we might be able to become champion of the Pokemon League here in Hoenn. With that, he leaves and we make way back to Mr. Briny to set sail for Slateport City. We pass by this beach shipwreck as we arrive at this massive beach full of trainers waiting to have their dreams crushed. Slateport is a massive port city with an open market, this battle tent, the Ocean Museum, and the shipyard. But when we head inside the shipyard, the captain isn't there and is instead visiting the museum. But when we go there, an assload of Team Aqua Grunts have flooded the inside of the building. in that they're all physically crammed in there, not that they've actually flooded. Inside, we find Captain Stern, but before we can hand the Devon goods to him, 2 Team Aqua Grunts rush in and try to steal them from us. But after they're dealt with, another man comes in and identifies himself as Archie, the leader of Team Aqua. Their goal is to expand the world's oceans for the sake of Pokemon, which I kinda get, but there are land-faring Pokemon too, so what about them? Either way, Archie warns us to stay out of Aqua's way and lets us go this time. Now, how about that battle oh shit, I completely forgot about Sky. You'll see him pop in occasionally as he's looking for a powerful enough trainer for something rather special, and he takes a keen interest in us and decides to keep an eye on our progress to see if we're that kind of trainer he's looking for. The battle tents are these facilities peppered throughout the region where you can partake in various battles with special conditions. For example, here in Slateport, this one requires that we use rental Pokemon. These are pretty neat, all things considered, but can ultimately be ignored unless you're going for something super specific, which I'll touch on in a little bit, but they're nice to have at least. Route 110 is pretty cool. There's the bicycle road which goes over the whole route, but we can't go on it yet since, we don't have a bike right now. But that's okay, because there's also this windy grass path that snakes through the water. There's also this house you can find which is home to the Trickmaster, who challenges us to find him in his maze of a house. After an encounter with Brendan, which, fun fact, this rival fight is one of the hardest in the game if you're speedrunning it, and after evolving Cushmiser into a Breloom, we arrive at Mauville City, home of the Game Corner, allowing us to gamble on slots and even roulette. We can even visit the bike shop where the owner just gives us a bike for free, no strings attached, just a free mode of transportation. However, new to this game are 2 kinds of bikes. The Acro Bike, which allows us to do tricks like bunny hops, which can be used for traversal to unique areas, and the Mach Bike, which on top of being speed incarnate, also allows for traversal over special obstacles in the overworld. You can only have 1 bike at a time, however, so you gotta come back and swap them out every so often if you want the other. We can find Wally with his uncle outside the gym as he wants to prove to him that he can take it on, and asks us to fight him, which is easy as he still only has a route, so, We can then head west to Verdanturf Town, perhaps most well known for being the place where Wally's aunt and uncle live, and not much else. Except another battle tent. Heading back to Mauville and getting the HM for Rock Smash, we can now head inside the gym, home of the cheerfully electric man, Watson, who will shock us with his electric-type Pokemon. If you picked Mudkip and evolved it into a Marshtomp, then this should be pretty simple as its ground type will protect it from electrical attacks. For grounding Watson, we obtain the Dynamo badge and TM34 Shockwave. We can return to Verdanturf and reunite this couple inside the Rustturf Tunnel to get the HM for Strength. This also creates a shortcut back to Rustboro City, which is great for me because I kind of forgot to grab the cut HM from there. We even run into the Devon Researcher again, who gives us a Repeat Ball, a new kind of Pokeball. So the Pokeballs Kirk could make for us are gone, but in their place are completely brand new Pokeballs, which I'll throw up on screen what they do right now, and these actually function as intended, so they are automatically better than Kurt's balls by default. After some cleanup around the Hoenn region, we can progress north only to find this large tower built into the hillside. This is Trainer Hill, another battle facility which we can't do anything with right now, so let's go ahead and put a Google Maps pin in it. There is this massive desert on this route, but the sandstorm is too much for us to handle, so we gotta go through Mount Chimney and head through Fiery Path, but not before adding a 4th member to the team, a Numel that I named Numa Numa. And if me saying that got the Numa Numa song stuck playing in your head, you're welcome. Along the way to our next destination, we can find this guy who gives us TM43 Secret Power, which, if we teach to a Pokemon, allows us to create a secret base inside certain trees, bushes, and caves. Secret bases are pretty cool. You can decorate them with mats, Pokedolls, just whatever you can find throughout the game, but I didn't spend too much time on it since I really don't have anyone who actively plays Gen 3 enough to mix records with to get our secret bases into each other's games. Still, this is a cool feature nevertheless. Route 113 is pretty unique with the fact that the suit coming down from Mount Chimney has completely coated the place, which is visually appealing. You can even find this brand new Pokemon here called Spinda, which has a pretty cool quirk. You see those 4 dots on its face? No 2 Spinda have the same exact dot placement, so that is very neat. And before you ask, yes, you can play Doom on the faces of Spinda. After a bit, we arrive in Fall Arbor Town, home to yet another battle tent. We can also find this girl in the Pokemon Center whose name is Lanette. She created the PC storage system here in Hoenn, and by God I want to kiss her because this PC storage system kicks ass over Bills and Kanto and Johto. Look at this, it's usable and way more GUI friendly. There are more boxes here, and the boxes themselves hold more Pokemon, so you know, that's always a positive. There is a reason that this storage system is still used in the games today. It is just that much better than the one from Gen 1 and 2. We can head inside this neat looking house and find this woman who informs us that Professor Cosmo went to Meteor Falls off of Route 114 with some people from Team Magma, so it looks like we got a mission. On Route 114, we can even find a Swablu, which is this adorable winged cloudbird Pokemon that I caught and gave the nickname Blue. Inside of Meteor Falls, we can find two Team Magma grunts with Professor Cosmo, who just when they're about to take us on, Team Aqua steps in and scares them off, but they gloat that they already got what they came for, that being a meteorite. They then make their way back to Mount Chibney, as Archie tells us that Team Magma is a band of lunatics who want to expand the world's landmass for the sake of people. That's right, we got two evil teams this go around. Although this is only an Emerald, in Ruby, Team Magma is the evil team, and in Sapphire, Team Aqua is evil. Cosmo explains that he was tricked by Team Magma and tells us that we need to stop whatever they're up to on Mount Chibney. After rushing all the way back, we can take the cable car up to the top of the volcano and help Team Aqua in stopping Team Magma, fighting our way through several goons and even the admin Tabitha before reaching Maxie, the leader of Team Magma. Maxie explains that his plan is to use the meteorite to cause the volcano to erupt, so we have to put a stop to this madness and take on Maxie. Fortunately, thanks to our Pokemon's efforts, we're able to stop him and put an end to his escapades for now. Archie thanks us, but is confused as to exactly whose side we're on, and you know, honestly, Archie, being a pirate like you guys sounds way better than being on Team Kid Who Peaked in elementary school. Making our way down the mountain where she comes, we can find a lone Team Magma grunt standing in front of this part of the rock face. You know, a little odd, but if we keep going all the way down, we can enter Lava Ridge Town. This place is pretty small, but it has this hot spring that I swear, because of how May's sprite is, it makes her look like she actually does strip down when entering the water. I can't be the only one who sees that, right? We can also get this egg from this old lady. Lava Ridge brings us to our fourth gym, a sauna, which is home to Flannery, a woman with a fiery passion that burns. She specializes in the fire type, and since I chose a water starter, oh fuck! Beating her grants us the heat badge and TM50 overheat. When we leave the gym, Brendan greets us and hands us a pair of Go Goggles, which allows us to brave the desert sandstorm, allowing us to explore it, and that tower wasn't there before. Mirage Tower. This place requires use of the Mach Bike to pass over these cracked floor tiles before they break, and if we reach the top of the tower, we can get one of two fossils. I chose the Claw fossil, and upon grabbing it, the whole tower vanishes with the other fossil fading into the sand. There's also this strange rock formation. I wonder what's up with that. Oh shit, Small is evolving again! Oh, I hope it's something cool and not sexy and the subject of several lewd images. No! At long last, we return to Petalburg City and take on the gym, which specializes in the normal type. The challenges here are all pretty unique too. There's a room that deals with one-hit KOs, another one with defense. They do a lot more with the normal type gym here than Whitney's back in Johto. Finally, we come face to face with our father, Norman, master of normal type Pokemon. If you don't have a fighting type, then this can actually be pretty challenging, and hell, it's even hard with a fighting type because of his ace, Slacking. The stats in this thing are borderline legendary, however, it has one critical flaw. Its ability makes it so that it can only attack every other turn, so use that to your advantage, and Norman will be beaten. Dad hands over the Balance Badge and TM42 Facade. After the battle, Wally's dad comes in and asks us to come with him to his house. Apparently, Wally has gotten very healthy, and seeing his son happy because of us makes him grateful, so as a token of appreciation, he hands us the HM for Surf, so we can now sail across all of those sea routes that we traveled through by boat earlier, and even find another one of those strange rock formations. Not to mention, Numa Numa evolved into a Camerupt. After a lot of sailing around and deciding to hold off on that abandoned ship till later, we can return to Mauville where we find, oh fuck, Grandpa got out of the nursing home again, god damn it. Watson tasks us with heading to the secret underground New Mauville and turning off the generator there, which wouldn't be so bad if I didn't have to do all of this running back and forth, opening and closing these gates, all the while encountering so many wild Pokemon, just one after another.
Just use a repel, you bellend.
No! What if one of them's a shiny? After raiding Watson, he gives us TM24 Thunderbolt as thanks. We can then head east of Mauville now that we can surf, and encounter Steven, who talks to us about Pokemon for a bit before heading off. Nearby, we can find the Berry Master's house, who, on top of having a large plot of land for planting berries, will even give us some great ones as well. Route 119 is a route that, while I love due to the tall grass, upward hill terrain, and the massive river flowing through it, that river is the source of so much grief. There is a Pokemon here you can find called Feebas, and it only spawns on this route. Now, you have to fish for it, but as if finding the thing wasn't enough, it only spawns on 6 tiles in the water here, and there are over 400 water tiles, so good fucking luck catching that. Oh, and I forgot, the tiles, they randomize every 24 hours! Yeah. Near the end of the route, we find that the way forward is being blocked by 2 Team Aqua members who mention the Weather Institute, which is right here. Heading inside, we have to fight several Team Aqua grunts and also the admin Shelly, who is holding the scientist hostage. After a good fight for the team, Team Aqua flees when a band of magma grunts passes by heading for Mount Pyre. Afterwards, we have yet another fight with Brendan, who, just like the multiple times we fought him before, gets stomped on by our team consisting of various bloodthirsty maniacs and Blue. Speaking of Blue, goodbye Swablu, hello Altaria. Brendan gives us the HM for Fly before hopping onto his bike and heading off to parts unknown. Fortree City has to be one of the most unique places in all of Pokemon. Nearly all of the buildings here are tree houses connected by these bridges. It's so cool, and it makes me think about how Hoenn has some of the best world design in the series so far. So many locales feel like they're one of a kind, and it gives the region a personality of its own. So the next gym is being blocked by what I can only assume is an SCP of some kind, so by progressing a little into the next route, we can find Steven, who uses the Devinscope to reveal the identity of these invisible creatures, a camouflaging Pokemon named Kecleon. After dealing with it, we can use the Devinscope to scare off the one blocking the entrance to the gym before heading inside, but not before catching our final team member, an Absol that I named Sylvie, and I am just now realizing as I'm writing this that I could have named her Sol Goodman. God damn it. The Fortree City gym requires pushing these bars around to create openings for us to progress through the gym. It's a nice brain tickler of a puzzle, but at the end is the bird user who takes flight to the world, Winona, the master of flying Pokemon. This was actually a little tricky since I don't actually have the means to deal with flying type Pokemon easily, so I just employed the hit it till it dies strategy. For winning the battle, we are given the Feather Badge as well as TM40 Aerial Ace. With all that done, we can progress south to Route 120 and find a third strange rock formation. These all have to be connected, right? Gippy also finally got to level 36 and evolved into Swampert. On the next route, we can even catch a glimpse of Team Aqua making their way to Mount Pyre. Side note, the Safari Zone is also on this route, which we'll get to in a second. Lily Cove City is a coastal town, home of the department store, a dock, and our final fight against Brendan. Yeah, I don't get why this is the last time we fight him. His starter isn't even fully evolved, so we just never see him at his peak. It kind of makes me wonder what the point of him being our main rival is, you know? Why couldn't it have been Wally? And yeah, it's frustrating, but that's a genuine criticism that I have with this game. We can also find the contest hall here, and oh boy, let's take a seat for this one. Contests come in 5 flavors: smart, cute, cool, tough, and beauty. You have to use your Pokemon's moves to sway the judge into liking your Pokemon better than the opponent's, and you can even make the other Pokemon look bad with certain moves. That's not all, however, as there's also a visual portion of the contest where you need to increase the stats in those given categories to do better in the visual round. Now, how exactly do you do that? Berry blending. You and 3 other people gather around this machine and toss in 4 berries, 1 per person, and play this minigame where you have to get the best mix possible. Doing so gives everyone a Pokeblock, which when fed to a Pokemon, increases their contest stats. Then, if you manage to actually win a contest, you're awarded with a ribbon in that category, introducing another new system into the series. Ribbons are basically achievements, except they're tied to the individual Pokemon, and there are a ton of these. I've actually thought about trying to get every ribbon possible on one Pokemon, but I just don't have the time to do that. Maybe for a video someday. Okay, now let's go over the Safari Zone really quick. This functions like it did back in Gen 1. You get 30 Safari Balls and you have to just catch wild Pokemon. You can use Pokeblocks to keep them in battle, or go near them for a better chance at the throw, but doing so can scare the Pokemon off. Mount Pyre is a graveyard for the deceased Pokemon of the Hoenn region, but at the summit of the mountain is Team Aqua, who steal the red orb. And this is after Team Magma swung by and stole the blue orb, so whatever they're both up to cannot be good. But the old lady there gives us the Magma emblem, allowing us entry into Team Magma's hideout. Also, I just want to point this out really quick, but I forgot that the Hex Maniacs used to look like this originally. Funny, since, now in the modern games, Game Freak made them, horny. If we go to where that lone Magma Grunt was on Mount Chimney earlier, we can use the Magma emblem to reveal the entrance to the Magma hideout, which is crawling with Magma Grunts, but after clawing our way through the base, we eventually find Maxie looking at the slumbering super ancient Pokemon, Groudon. He then uses the blue orb to awaken the Pokemon. However, instead of it giving him control of Groudon, it flees, with Maxie immediately pinning the blame on us and instantly throwing his whole team at ours. After his defeat, Team Magma flees, with us now having to tackle Team Aqua's hideout. Before heading there, we have to go back to Slateport to pretty much watch Team Aqua hijack this submarine from right underneath Captain Stern's nose, the fucking idiot. So here's a fun fact for you. Team Magma actually uses this place as their hideout in Ruby version. I don't know why. This is the least Magma-y place imaginable. They don't even really do anything to, make it look like it should be their base. But at the very least, this is a very simple place to get through. But for the love of God, grab the Master Ball! In Ruby and Sapphire versions, the entrance to this place seals off after the evil team has been dealt with, meaning you can't get the thing if you missed it. At the very least, this was corrected in Emerald version, so that way, when you do deal with the evil team, this place still remains open, so if you missed the Master Ball, you can just go and grab it. At the end, we have to fight Aqua admin Matt, who was simply stalling us while Archie prepared the submarine, as Team Aqua heads off to find a specific underwater cavern. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations! Welcome to the part of the game that is the reason why IGN gave this game a 7.5 out of 10. I am not kidding when I say the last four for this game is water routes. At the very least, the surf speed is pretty fast, so I don't mind it that much. And if you're someone to sit here and bitch about the fact that the last part of the game is nothing but water routes because you're going to be encountering Pokemon a lot, use a fucking repel. After a bit, we reach the island city of Mossdeep, home of our 7th gym and a space center, where we find Steven, who has received a kindly worded letter from Team Magma informing them that they plan on stealing rocket fuel to jettison into the volcano. How nice of them to give them a heads up before they fuck them! We can also find Shoal Cave to the north, which is unique in that depending on the time of day, the tides will either be high or low, which changes the layout of the interior. Mossdeep's city gym is filled with double battles, so I hope you're prepared for the challenge. At the end are two girls named Tate and Liza, the psychically linked twins who are both the gym leaders. They specialize in the psychic type and will fuck you up if you aren't prepared for it. Double battles, man, and they can be fun, but they can go horribly wrong for you if you aren't careful. For defeating them, we acquire the Mind Badge in TM04, Calm Mind. As we exit, we can head back to the Space Center only to see Maxie leading his squad into the building, so we know what we have to do. After carving a way to the top of the building, we can help Steven out in a double battle against Tabitha and Maxie, where we're only allowed to choose 3 Pokemon of our own to participate in the fight. Afterwards, Maxie comes to the conclusion that if all of their plans have failed, then maybe their ideas are misguided, and thus, so must Team Aqua, so he heads off to rethink what Team Magma should really do. Steven tells us to meet up at his house here in Mossdeep, and when we do, he gives us the Dive HM, allowing us to dive underwater in these dark spots which can lead to hidden pathways, but really, we need this to find that cavern Team Aqua went looking for. After searching around the waters of Hoenn for a bit, we eventually find that underwater cave on Route 128, and even see the submarine that Team Aqua stole to find this place. We have to battle our way through several Team Aqua members and go deeper into the cave, where we eventually find Archie eyeing up the slumbering super ancient Pokemon, Kyogre. He challenges us to one more battle, where of course, he loses. Then, all of a sudden, without him doing anything, the red orb activates all by itself, awakening Kyogre, failing to give him control of the beast, and causing it to flee just like Groudon did. Archie receives a call from the grunts that are still on the surface where they report heavy rainfall, but it's way more than they could have ever envisioned, with Maxie arriving soon after and condemning Archie for his actions, to which Archie calls him out for doing the same thing with Groudon. When we return to the surface, Hoenn is being ravaged by a torrential rainfall and a scorching heatwave at the same time, with a dark cloud coming from Stutopolis City, a city within a crater. When we get there, we see Kyogre and Groudon brutally fighting each other, which is what is causing the weather to go all out of whack. Steven quickly ushers us into the Cave of Origin to speak with a man by the name of Wallace, who speaks of a third super ancient Pokemon, Rayquaza, and instructs us to head for Sky Pillar by Pacifilog Town. When we make our way to Pacifilog, which is a town floating on the water, I love it, we head for Sky Pillar. Fortunately, this place isn't that hard to navigate. We just need to reach the top of the structure, where we find a slumbering Rayquaza, who then awakens and flies off. Back at Stutopolis, we see that things are getting even worse. Kyogre and Groudon will not stop fighting, and if nothing can stop them now, it is very possible that this will likely result in the destruction of the Hoenn region. With everything back to normal, Archie and Maxie both apologize and promise to return the blue and red orbs to Mount Pyre as they make their exit. Steven and Wallace both thank us profusely before suggesting that we tackle our final gym, as well as awarding us with the HM for Waterfall. The 8th gym has a brain tickler of a puzzle where you need to crack all of the floor tiles in order to progress, but by stepping on them again after they've already been cracked, will break them and cause you to fall down and have to fight all of these trainers who are all women. Why is the gym leader keeping a bunch of women underneath the gym? Juan, the suave user of water Pokemon and the mentor to Wallace, is our final gym leader, and if you have the means to take care of water types right now, congratulations, you get a cookie. For draining Juan's... no, that doesn't sound right. For drying Juan... no, that doesn't... for beating him, we get the Rain Badge and TM03 Water Pulse. With all 8 badges in hand, Hoenn is now our cloister, and if there's anything that I want to do right now, it is head back to Sky Pillar and check on Rayquaza. So it seems something must have happened after we left this place, because it is a fucking mess now with all of the cracked floor tiles everywhere. At the peak of the pillar, waiting for us is our green snake friend, and as we approach him, we get ready for one hell of a fight. Rayquaza is a staggering level 70! So, you couldn't catch Rayquaza until the post-game in Ruby and Sapphire, right? So there, him being level 70 makes sense. But it seems like when they, made him available during the main game for Emerald, they forgot to adjust his levels to be matching everything else at this point in the game. But if you do catch him now, no shit, this is a straight ticket through the Pokemon League, as the champion caps at level 58. Either way, Rayquaza will make for a powerful ally to have. If you decide to head west to Pacifilog, you might find this dive spot, which leads us to this message on the wall engraved in Braille, telling us to dive up in this spot, which leads us to the sealed chamber. Now you need 3 things here: a Pokemon with the move Dive, which, how'd you get here, and the Pokemon Wailord and Relicanth. By deciphering the messages and doing as they instruct, we hear 3 doors open throughout the Hoenn region, so I say now is a good time to investigate those 3 rock structures. The central boulder and all of those strange rock structures now have doors leading us inside, where we find more Braille puzzles which, if performed, will open up a door to a secret chamber inside, where we find a Pokemon in each that, if we interact with... These are the Titan Trio, Regirock, Regice, and Registeel. powerful legendary Pokemon that were created by a even more powerful legendary Pokemon. These fuckers can be quite the challenge to catch, to which I recommend stocking up on Ultra Balls and Timer Balls. You're gonna need them. But no matter what, eventually all three will be under our command. Finally, we can make our way for Evergrande City, home of the Pokemon League. But first, we gotta get through Victory Road, home to some of the toughest trainers we've fought yet. We even encounter Wally one final time, who has gone through a whole ass character arc off screen and is juiced now. This place was a tad bit confusing to navigate, to be honest. I was here for a very long time trying to find my way out, all the while dealing with all of these trainers and wild Pokemon. It was getting frustrating after a minute. After some time, we emerge on the other side and approach the Pokemon League, and after stocking up on healing items, we head in and begin the Elite Four Challenge. Up first is Sydney, the wielder of Dark-type Pokemon, who the combined efforts of Numa and Kush made quick work of. Next up is Phoebe, who specializes in the Ghost-type, which can be a pain because her Pokemon know Mamma Mia, but she falls like the rest of them. Thirdly is Glacia, who would try to freeze us in our place with Ice Pokemon. Well, really, ice and water, her Whalewren makes this fight really tough, but eventually she melted as we moved on to Drake, master of Dragon Pokemon. I wasn't too worried about most of his team, except for the Salamence, this game's pseudo-legendary, which was sure hard to take down, but with enough elbow grease, we defeat the last of Hoenn's Elite Four. At the top of a very long staircase is the champion, Wallace, or Steven in Ruby and Sapphire, who thanks us for helping with the legendaries. As the Pokemon League champion, Wallace desires to see how we dance with our Pokemon. Wallace specializes in the water type, but he uses both bulky and hard-hitting Pokemon, which makes for a rather difficult challenge. The Wailord can be tough to put down, the Tentacool can toxic you Gyarados is Gyarados, and as for his Ace Milotic, it just is hard hitting, but if you made it this far, it won't be long before Wallace is defeated. Wallace congratulates us on becoming the new champion, with Brennan and Birch arriving soon after the fight, with Brennan being a little upset he didn't get to actually see it and, give us advice. But with that, we and our team are inducted into the Hall of Fame, which ends the main game story of Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Now we can begin our post-game quest, which isn't as large as Gen 2's, but there's still a decent amount to do here. When we load back into our save, we'll be back at our house, where we then catch the TV broadcast, which speaks of a roaming Pokemon of a color. Our mom asks what color it was, and that determines which Pokemon roams the region. Side note, you can only choose an Emerald though. If you choose red, it'll be the Pokemon Latias, and if you choose blue, it'll be the Pokemon Latios. In my case, I went with Latias, which means it'll now start roaming the region like the legendary beasts in Gen 2. And I bitched about how much I don't like roaming legendaries in that video, so I'm not gonna do it again, but at the very least, there's only one this go around, instead of 2 or 3, or hell, Pokemon Platinum, which has 5. Professor Birch also upgrades our Pokedex with the National Mode, allowing us to record the data of Pokemon not native to the Hoenn region. This also enables the ability to trade with the non-Hoenn games, that being Fire Red and Leaf Green, and Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. Scott will call us and ask us to head to the SS Title in Slateport City, where he invites us to the Emerald exclusive location, the Battle Frontier, a collection of battle facilities that will really test your skills as a trainer. There are 7 battle facilities in total, with a lot of them putting twists on the conventional battle styles. This definitely most appeals to the competitive Pokemon fan, which I am not. I'm more of a shiny hunter kind of girl, you know? Huh? Why, yes, I am rather boring at parties. Why do you ask? Trainer Hill is also now available for us to take on, which requires us to ascend this tower while participating in multiple trainer battles. I'll go more in depth as into what exactly Trainer Hill entails in Fire Red and Leaf Green, because that's where it was actually introduced. Back at the Weather Institute, the scientists there will start informing us of strange weather patterns occurring in certain routes across Hoenn, and if we investigate, we can find Kyogre and Groudon, allowing us the opportunity to catch both of them. Only in Emerald, however. These fuckers are version exclusive in Ruby and Sapphire. Alright, I feel like that's about everything except for the event. Oh! Right, the abandoned ship. This was clearly meant to be tackled earlier if the levels are anything to go by. You know, it's kinda my fault for ignoring it. But we can find this scanner deep within it, and if we take it to Captain Stern, he'll give us either the Deep Sea Scale or the Deep Sea Tooth, which are needed to evolve the Pokemon Clamperl into one of its 2 evolutions. Finally, let's discuss the events. Now, if you have the means to get the event items in your game, congratulations, you can get a few extra Pokemon. The old sea map allows us to go to the faraway island, this dense jungle, which is home to the mythical Pokemon Mew. Side note, the old sea map was only officially released in Japanese, but you can still do the event in the English copies of the game. It's just, you won't be able to transfer the Mew forward beyond Gen 5. With the Eon ticket, we can travel to Southern Island, where we find this egg that when we interact with will cause the other Latitwin to come down and attack us. The Mystic ticket takes us to Naval Rock, which is far away from Hoenn, which allows us the opportunity to catch the legendary Pokemon from Johto. Ho-Oh is at the peak of the area, and deep within we can find Lugia. Lastly is the Aurora ticket, which will see us to Birth Island, an eerie place with no music playing. And what's this thing? Alright, come on. No, come back here. Stay the fuck still! This is the mythical Pokemon Deoxys, a strange space alien Pokemon which came here on a meteorite. Pretty cool lore if you ask me. Now get in my balls. Now, I know we've done a lot, but we still have one thing left to do, and you want to juice your Pokemon up for this. If we head inside Meteor Falls, we can find several goodies and even rare Pokemon, which encourages us to explore deep inside. And waiting for us tucked away within the cave is Steven, who desires to test our might for himself. Exclusive to the Emerald version is this super boss fight against Steven Stone, and this is fucking hard! He specializes in the Rock and Steel type, meaning his Pokemon are both defensively and offensively capable. Top it off with his Pokemon are all in their 70s, so he means business. You can only do this once too, so the best of luck to you, and I hope you see victory like I was able to. And just like that, we can bring this adventure to an end. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are some of the more important Pokemon games when it comes to evolving the series, introducing new mechanics, revamping old ones, top it off with how fast everything moves, which I know is funny considering the length of this video, but I just had that much to say about this part of Gen 3. What saddens me is that I know several people who either skipped over these games or just fell out of Pokemon after Gen 2, which is such a shame, because I think these games raised the bar for what Pokemon should do. It didn't need to be revolutionary, but evolutionary, and Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald execute that very well. So after Ruby and Sapphire were released, Game Freak went ahead and built a new pair of games on top of Generation 3. So the next time we meet for Pokemon, it'll be with Fire Red and Leaf Green, the remakes of the Gen 1 games. Subscribe to the channel if that sounds fun to you, and leave a like and a comment should you choose. And with all of that said, I hope you have a great day or night. Peace.